Good morning, everybody. Oh, thank you for answering back. I hate it when it goes silent after that. So this morning, instead of just talking exactly about what I do now, I decided to write a short story about my life. So I'm probably going to read it. It's more like coming from a book instead of something more traditional. And then we can do a little Q&A after. So this journey is called From Weird to Weirder. This is the awkward girl's steps to a public life in art, business, and community. It's also a very short story to unexpected successes. Before we begin, I'd like to announce something to you all. Standing in front of groups like yourself has me shaking, literally, in my boots, as it does every single time. It will probably be the most for you as well if you did so. I would like to say that we're going to do this together this morning and see what happens. Woo, okay. This awkward story began on October 20th, 1977, in New Jersey. This was the day I entered the world. There I was, staring at my new home, not in tears or cries of shock, but rather in silence and observation. Right away, the doctors deemed this weird and abnormal. They told my mother I was probably going to be a slow child. Well, from there, I was off on my journey. The remaining childhood was full of unexpected and society's definition of weird. I walked late. I learned slow and different. I talked funny. I hid happily in the shadows. I created worlds alone in my head. I was always sick. My mind was riddled with hardness. Yet, on the flip side of this odd and slow young girl was a budding, accidental leader, organizer, activist, athlete, entrepreneur, and performer whose best friends were a golden retriever and a pine tree. In the third grade, we were all asked that dream question: what do you want to be when you grow up? My answer, without any idea as to what it meant, was, I want to be a Renaissance woman. What small child says that? My teacher giggled and looked perplexed at me at the same time. This was a look I should have gotten used to. I was talked about from above like a Peanuts character. On and on the stories grew about the person I was to become. My life began to pick up speed, and my shadow I loved dearly was being infringed upon by the light. Whether it was fighting for kids to have a right and a voice to petition against a wood-burning plant, to standing on stage, singing, or being a captain of a team. There was no escaping the path that I was on, no matter how hard I tried. And believe me, I tried. Because remember, away from all this, I was still the awkward girl born in 1977, silent and aware. The same girl that could not order a pizza over the phone without panicking. After years of praise and promise, something strange happened. I fell, and I fell far. I was the youngest ever accepted to one of the top photography schools in the nation, which I did not attend. I received a scholastic scholarship and walked on to a college ball team instead. I got the dean's approval to take more class hours than normal. All of these things seemed on par for the path I was forging. I was looking good to achieve a double degree in record time, and then the bottom dropped out. My body let me down, and I injured out of sports. My creeping mental health that had been chasing me for years smacked me in my face. I was stuck in my dorm room like a prisoner for weeks. All of this led a traditional success story off its course. After that came a complete withdrawal from college. This is where my non-conventional journey to my current future began. Fast forward to a young 20-something planning to move back east to her Yankee roots. Instead, I ended up arriving and completely lost in Dallas, Texas. Exactly. I arrived with my feet wet, totally unaware of my future or what that would even look like anymore. At this moment, I made the best decision in my life, which was to do nothing. I made myself stay put to look for who I was to be. Once again, this awkward girl found her new best friend in a golden retriever named Dakota. With Dakota by my side, the reset button had officially been pushed. In the next couple of years, I found myself accidentally organizing and beginning things once more. Two things spurred into place. Photography returned, and my fine art world appeared. My life has been one thing after another ever since, like a trail of breadcrumbs. My first spur was in photography. Now, remember that training I passed when I was a teenager to go to photography school? Well, here I was, with a fancy new 35mm film camera, and absolutely no clue as to what to do. Sorry, guys. And then there I was. I had met a few folks along the way that worked in the commercial photography world. No one ever asked my experience or history in photography. So naturally, I didn't say anything. One day, my phone rang at 7 a.m. on a Tuesday. A photographer's normal assistant had gotten ill, and he needed somebody in an hour. Luckily, for a shy girl, I never had the time to panic, just enough time to shower and get to where I needed to be. And there I was, on my very first commercial photography set. And I had no idea what to do or even how to do it. I was surrounded by equipment I had never seen or used in my life. I silently watched the photographer, and then I repeated the actions without asking a single question. At the end of the day, he told me, "Send me an invoice. Thank you." At that very moment, I made a deal with myself. My deal was to study at night what I did not know and to work by day. Whatever I was unsure of, I taught myself. And to my surprise, my night classes were working, and no one ever asked the question that I feared. No one ever pointed out that I was an imposter. Within a couple of years, my non-traditional training led me to be the one teaching my own assistants, and I had become the photographer. Much to my surprise, I was now the boss of an official business of one. Whoops. Around the same time was the beginning of my photo career. I was asked another strange and unexpected question. A woman saw me looking at a photography book in a corner, and we started talking. I walked away from that conversation, a co-curator of an art exhibition. I once again accepted without knowing a single thing about which included the definition of what I was expected to do. After a slight panic, I promptly approached the all-knowing Google and looked up the meaning, curator. What had I done? Shortly after all this, I rented my first studio in the city. I could not understand why no one was talking to each other. I found this to be odd. So off the shy girl went, knocking on the doors. There I was, holding and taking meetings. I had begun working at this point as a mentor, leader, and my early stages of nonprofit work, all still while working in the comfortable shadows that I loved. Within 2 years of arriving in Dallas, the city that I ended up in after falling from the expected, I did the unexpected again. The awkward girl who was afraid of people was now a professional photographer, a fine art photographer, an art curator, and a community organizer with a giant passion for coffee. Come on now, we all know. These things were the roots of my current self. Now, whenever I was doing what I thought I was supposed to do, life always sent me an unusual and somewhat painful turn of events. For all of you that have not insured your valuables and do not wish for altering life changes, take heed this warning. My passion for commercial photography was so naturally, my life answered back. Thieves came into my studio in the night and walked off with almost all of the uninsured equipment that I had, and with it, my career as a professional photographer. Well, there I was again, once more at the beginning. No longer a young 20-something, but now a young 30-something, lost again in career and next steps. With no money or equipment, I had to learn as many skills as needed just to pay my bills. All of which were self-taught, and yes, once again, I kept my secret school to myself. Well, let's move a couple of years forward and regroup. During what we will call the third new beginning. This is what landed me to my current reality. I had this concept of idea about emotion, transparency, and the inability to slow down in American society. No longer a photographer, this idea had to come off the wall and into the public eye. The same public I had avoided my entire life. This idea turned into what people told me was my first ever performance art piece. Thanks to Google, once again, for the definition of that one too. I, the same girl who was terrified of most things, had created a work titled Visible Shell. The piece involved many moving parts, but to keep it simple, I contained myself in an acrylic box in public for 48 hours. I built a community team of about 100 people to help in the production and execution of the work. Well, I can tell you what, put yourself in a box for 2 days and have the honor of well-covered press, and people will come out of curiosity. It's true. My option for a private life ended in those 48 hours. On the flip side, my work as an organizer was growing, and my position with the local nonprofit Art Conspiracy was changing as well. As the next couple of years went past, my love for the all-knowing internet became an invaluable source of data and answers. I continued the path of performance art, which led me to many awards, to the production of further performances in locations like the Arts District, the Perot Museum, my house, and beyond. When I searched endurance performance art for yet another definition needed, I now showed up in the image section of the search. This was naturally a huge shock. It was official. I had become an accomplished artist, somehow between definitions and executions. Now, a shy, publicly exposed artist and organizer, the next step appeared. I was asked if I would like to be the next executive director of Art Conspiracy. My stomach dropped out and my mouth said, yes. I was once again asking myself, what had I done? I began a path that has led me to meet some of the most amazing people. Honored to be a facilitator for an all-volunteer staff of over 30 of the ever-growing ArtCon that has given back nearly $300,000 to the arts and music community alongside with its own small programming. Over the next several years, this awkwardly, constantly over-caffeinated now woman became the person that you see in front of you. I had been told in the past that I should have more reasonable expectations for my life, and that I will more than likely not achieve the things I wanted. Well, I can tell you that that has yet to come true, because if you never know what to expect, the unexpected should just land in your lap without you even looking. This takes me to the exact place that has me standing in front of you today, and here are the steps that I took to get here. 1, be born different and weird. 2, surprise the world by being strange and awkward. 3, allow yourself to fall as many times as needed, and then get up. 4, it's okay if you can't define it, because you will. 5, allow life to run its course and go along for the ride. 6, knowing that you'll be terrified, but do it anyway. I am proud to say that I have exceeded the expectations I was told to lower by not knowing what was ahead. I have now become a public businesswoman, leader, motivator, community bridge builder, terrified speaker, and to date have never gone on an interview. Am I scared? Oh yeah, every day. And now I am overjoyed that the scared girl does not have to call for pizza, because finally your phone does it for you. Weird has been a pretty good journey thus far, and who knows what will happen next. Thank you.